What is going on, people? I actually realized it's been a very long time, if I've ever actually done it before, that I've made a video specifically about, well, me. In this video, I'm going to be telling you guys my origin story, who I am as a digital marketer and entrepreneur, and a little bit of nuance into specifically where my expertise lies and how essentially I got all of the knowledge to make videos about this and to actually sell services around social media like I do. So guys, without further ado, let's just start from zero. Whenever I first got my start in entrepreneurship, I always like to say I was like a blue laptop kid, right? I had this super cheap $100 blue laptop that my mom bought me whenever I was in high school. And literally, my entire entrepreneurship journey started because I Googled a blog about how to make money online, like every other famous entrepreneur. And I essentially went through everything on this list. I bookmarked the tab, and over the next few weeks, the next few months, I would go over every single thing in this tab. And I went from affiliate marketing to influencer marketing to referral programs. And I went through almost the whole list. And at the very bottom of the list, I found this thing called dropshipping. At the time, I had no clue what it was. As a matter of fact, way back then in 2016, if you just Googled the term dropshipping, nothing would come up. So I was like, okay, this actually seems pretty cool, right? I can start a business and I don't ever have to hold any product. I can just sell the product that somebody else has on hand, have them ship it to the customer, and I keep the little money in the in-between middleman game. I like how that sounds. So it's essentially what I doubled down on. I would spend the next 3 or 4 years trying to figure out dropshipping and what it meant to be in the dropshipping space. What I found very quickly is that you actually need money to start a business. And my dreams kind of died because I wanted to be a drop shipper, but the first 6 months of that were not me drop shipping and building Shopify stores. I was actually building meme pages. What I realized very quickly is that before you can sell anything to anybody, you have to get their attention first. I was like, okay, how can I actually get people's attention? So I started up theme pages on Instagram. At the time, there were niche related accounts that weren't necessarily somebody's faces, but they were related around a theme. So themes like anime, themes like earth pages, makeup tutorials. I started up Instagram pages around that. Grew a lot of them to tens of thousands, a few of them to hundreds of thousands of followers, got millions of views on a lot of those stuff. And I was essentially able to understand oh, holy crap, this is how you get people's attention. Now, at the same time, right, as I was running these stores, you make money from those stores by selling shout outs and selling promotions. I was able to reinvest that money into actually drop shipping. So at that point, I was able to have a Shopify store. I was able to make a little bit of money in sales from the theme accounts, but nothing crazy. In a month, we would probably do $300 to $500 in sales. And me, as a high school teenager, that was way more than enough for me to literally tell myself I'm never gonna ever need to get a real job. With fast forwarding a few years, and I mean a few years, I spent time in the theme pages, going back and forth with very small e-commerce stores for a while. And I essentially spent the first few years of my career utterly failing, doing something every single day and just being terrible at it. And what eventually happened was that I ran across one of my best business partners, Alex. He and we kind of just hopped on a call one day. We partnered on a theme page, and we hopped on a call one day, and we were like, hey dude, you're into e-commerce, I'm into e-commerce, let's partner up and see if we can do something really cool here. So literally what we did is we took the teeth whitening pen, I'll make sure to flash up on the screen, slapped our logo on it, and went ridiculously crazy. What I didn't understand that I had been teaching myself throughout this entire time, or those few years that I call myself failing, was I was learning how to get people's attention. On social media, on a lot of those Instagram pages, I would literally grow them from 0 to several tens of thousands of followers. And that was all because I was teaching myself consumer marketing. Without really knowing it, I was asking myself, what do people want to see, and how can I give that thing to them on a very consistent basis? So whenever we started up our Shopify store and we slapped our logo on the teeth whitening pen, it wasn't just a traditional product. What it was one person who understood sales very, very well. That was Alex. And then me, who understood consumer attention and branding extremely well. We spent about 6 months running that store. And then in like month 3, we scaled up to about 70K a month. Overall, we did about $250,000 in sales in that store. Like, we really, really scaled it up. And I got my first big win on the board. Like, that was at the point where I could start calling myself like a self-made entrepreneur, right? Like, I was actually solidified, or I actually did this thing because I finally, after like several years, had a big, big, big win on the board. Now, after exiting on that store, I would go on to start like several more e-commerce stores, none of which were as big as that past store, but a lot of them have some really, really cool successes. Specifically though, after running e-commerce stores for so long, I freaking hated it. I was so tired of running e-commerce stores because what I actually liked doing was social media marketing. Like, I like the idea of making a video, the psychology behind like, how do I get somebody's attention using this thumbnail, using this first 3 seconds, or using this platform versus that platform, and this person versus that person. But what I actually found out with e-commerce was whenever I first chose it, it was the low hanging fruit. It was the thing that I could do to like sort of start making more money without having to put up a lot of money, because I didn't have a lot to put up in the first place. But in e-commerce, there was so much more than just marketing. There was like logistics, there was website management, there was like handling customers and like, dude, products. Like, there was so much outside of actually doing social media that by the time I was actually like had worked 8 hours in the day and I was like, oh, I actually can finally do the thing that I like to do, I would be dead tired because I've spent all of this energy on things that I actually don't like to do. After that, I was ridiculously burned out on entrepreneurship and like everything that involved selling, because I had done that and sort of drug it out for so long. To tell you the truth, it was the thing that I was really, really good at. And because I was so good at it, I was so used to getting praise for it, I didn't want to stop. And I eventually led to a ridiculously long burnout. So I quit. I decided to not do e-commerce anymore, at least not start up my own stores. And I decided I just really wouldn't do that anymore. It wasn't fun. It wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't the thing that I actually wanted to do. So going into the next part of my journey, I said, if I'm going to quit, I'm going to quit all the way. So I quit entrepreneurship completely. I think I still sold a few products here and there on eBay, but like as far as running e-commerce stores and doing the thing that I had spent like the last 4 or 5 years doing in e-commerce and entrepreneurship, I was so ridiculously burnt out on it. I was like, just not gonna do this anymore, man. So I did the straight and narrow path. I did the right thing. I graduated college. I got an actual 9-to-5 job. And I found out I hated that way more than I hated running e-commerce stores. The 9-to-5 life was completely not for me because I had spent my entire life basically up until that point doing things my own way, following my own systems, breaking things, putting them back right. And in the 9-to-5 corporate world, you really don't have that flexibility, at least not in the spaces that I worked in. So I quit again. And after quitting, it was a really, really funny, interesting part because I quit that job, but I only had about 2, maybe 3 months of bills saved up in my savings account. So I quit. I didn't really know what I was going to do next. Kind of just left. And what essentially happens is so funny because I'm recording this on the day of the 3-year mark of me starting this. I started a social media marketing agency. Like, I quit that job. A week later, I buy the KG Digital domain, and that is now the social media marketing agency that I'm running. But I don't really know how to run a social media marketing agency. Like, I know that I'm pretty good with social media marketing, but I definitely know that I have no clue on how to actually run the agency. So I run across a YouTube video by this guy. His name was Montel Gordon. In that YouTube video, he literally talked about how to buy and how to run a social media marketing agency. He sold me a course for like $2,000. So I want you guys to understand, I only had like $4,000 in my account. I spent like 2,000 of it to get this course, and I was like, holy crap! Like, this thing better work because otherwise I'm gonna be pretty stuck. Turns out, after 3 days of me actually buying that course, I was able to sign a client for $800 a month, and that $800 a month was exactly how much my rent was. So like, I was good. Like, bills were essentially paid. At least I wouldn't be homeless. So after that, I doubled down on what I had learned in that course, and I signed a client then another client, then a few more clients. And I eventually grew the agency to where we were averaging anywhere from between about 5 to 12 clients month over month. I was able to scale to, I want to tell you, right around 12K inside of that agency model. But the big problem in that model was, yes, we were able to do some pretty good numbers on some pretty decent profit margins. You know, the agency model, it's pretty profitable. But where we really got stuck was my very first client. Like I told you guys, I understood social media marketing very well. So when I laser targeted into one client or a few different projects at once, I was able to get some really good results. My first client, we grew, he was a TikToker. We grew him 1 million followers in literally 90 days. It's still my craziest case study. But we kept going in this cycle with clients where we would get them really good results. And then about 2 to 3 months later, we would get fired. So the Yeesaw case study, we got fired like 3-4 months into that contract, and we were like, dude, we just produced some crazy results. What is going on? We will go on to have several different case studies where we would like triple engagement, or we would grow tens of thousands of followers in a very short amount of time. But like my agency kept getting fired. And for the life of me, I could not understand. So I took a step back. I was like, okay, what the heck is going on that allows us to keep getting fired in something like this? So what I eventually began to realize was that you have to be able to make people money. And that realization that getting followers is not enough, helping people save time by itself is not enough. You have to make it make sense in a business owner's head that you are justifiable by them paying you this amount of money because you are going to make them that money tenfold down in their business. So that is when my agency really began to blossom and grow. Like I told you guys, I spent a lot of time in the e-commerce space. So the first place that I went was in the e-commerce space of one-to-one coaching with influencers and partners, which means in the e-commerce space, we sign on a client, they would send us products. We would get influencers, book a studio, and have those influencers come with those products. We would shoot content for basically the entire day. Now, what I realized I was really good at was one-on-one coaching. Like we produced a lot of really good and really viral videos because I was sitting there asking the questions. Like I want you to catch this full circle moment. Asking the questions that I had asked myself since 2016, building theme pages accounts while I was one-on-one coaching with those influencers. Hey, change this angle. Hey, use this tone. Hey, say this like this because this is what's going to get people's attention. Trust me, I've been doing this for a really long time. Those would end up being the best ads. The problem was, there were actually two really big ones. The first one was that influencers were really difficult to deal with on one-on-one coaching styles if you have 4 or 5 of them recording at once. The second one with that specific agency model is that after we did a project for a client, that client would not need us anymore for like another 3 to 5, sometimes even 6 months. So it was a very difficult offer to sell because after you close one client, essentially you have to go scavenging for the next clients. And in months where you couldn't find any, or months where like it was really difficult, like economy stuff, whatever, it was a ridiculously hard business model to run because you could never get month over month clients, always clients that came in spurts, nothing else. So I decided to stop running that business, or at least that model of the agency. Whenever I shifted it, I said, well, you know what? I've gotten really good at one-on-one coaching. I've gotten to the point where I don't just know social media well, I know it well, I can teach it very well, and I can execute on it well enough to get amazing results. I have so many case studies now, like me coming to that conclusion was honestly just the next logical step in my decision-making process. So what ends up happening next is I shift the agency model and I slightly tweak it to work with people in one-on-one coaching. So instead of e-commerce brands, we work with CEOs and founders, and we sit with them now in the agency model and record content inside of their business. Literally, me or somebody on my team will sit on a 30 to 40 minute call every other week and do sort of like a mini interview where we coach that specific client through, this is how you say these things. This is how you put out the thought that you have around your industry in the way that people actually want to hear you. We then have our editing team come up and they make them into long form, think like YouTube videos, short form, like TikTok style stuff. And then we have our publishing team go behind the editing team after the editing team, makes it look all nice and everything. And they actually make sure that people want to watch the video. They make the really great thumbnails. They put out like the certain SEO titles and captions and everything. And we actually get our clients ridiculously amazing results. And what I love about our business model now is like you can obviously see how it's stacked over time, like how e-commerce led into this thing and how this thing led into the agency model and how learning this thing from this agency model led into this thing. So guys, that's like my journey. Like by now, we have had lots of crazy case studies where we've produced like well over 6 figures for lots of clients. We're actively producing in leads, sometimes for some of our clients, literally just through YouTube. And we're constantly iterating and growing the agency model. If you guys have not caught this by now, I am a ridiculously big digital marketing nerd, and this is just a blimp and I guess a half spot of my story, and specifically where we are now. We're actively still building out the team and the one-on-one coaching agency model, and literally personal branding is where we spend all of our time with one-on-one CEO founders, coaches, literally making them look like they're good at the things that they claim that they're good at and making their agencies and their businesses more money. So guys, that is a little bit about me. I hope you guys learned, I guess, a little bit more about me, who I am. My name is Cam, and well, it was a pleasure. See you guys in some of these other videos. Peace.